Michaela and her one child moved out.
But it was
a month later, your wife moved in.
When my kids came down for the summer, Your Honor, my wife, when she brought them down, her house was taken over by squatters. That's why she ended up staying there.
You're a squatter. You're a squatter. You, your wife, and 5 children are squatters in Mr. Sotelo's house. You've been living there for 4 months and haven't paid rent. That makes you a squatter.
I have the rent, Your Honor, for him. I have his rent. I withheld the rent until he fixed the things. There's no AC in the house. There's no ventilation. There's things. He's not even supposed to be renting the house. Code enforcement's coming out Friday because he rented me the house that he wasn't supposed to rent it to me.
You have your moving expenses. Don't give him the rent. You have your moving expenses. If you saved him, if you saved him the money,
yes, ma'am.
Listen to me. If you've saved the money and you have the money to move, Mr. Sotelo would love for you to move. And if you moved out tomorrow, he would. Because he knows he's not going to get his money anyway. Is that a fair statement?
Your Honor,
just a sec. You tried to evict him, right? You went to court to try to evict him. Right. And you're not going to be successful because they're not going to award you rent because the place that you have has certain code violations.
Oh, we don't know if there's any code violations at the moment.
Your Honor,
it's a very easy case. I don't have to make it any more complicated.
Please, I just want to speak for
I don't have to make it any more complicated. He moved in without you with his girlfriend and her child for 3 months. Then you came. A month after you came, he stopped paying rent, and he's still not paying rent. Well, and he wants him to move.
Mr. Richard agreed to
my kids. He knew my kids was coming. He knew that they were coming, Your Honor. It's not like I just brought my kids there.
Just a second. I don't care. Just a second. It really doesn't matter. He didn't know that they were coming when you moved in with Michaela, unless when you moved in with Michaela, February, March, and April.
Right, but
January, February, and March. You didn't say, by the way, this is my girlfriend. She's going to be here January, February, and March. And then in June, my wife and 5 kids are going to come. You didn't tell that to him.
My wife has her own home. My wife still has her own house. My wife has her own house, Your Honor.
Good. Your case is dismissed. Now, use the money that you've saved up for rent and move.
Mr. Richard agreed.
I know you have accounts.
Mr. Richard agreed to not
Just a second. I don't want to hear from you. When you eat the steak, you have to pay for it. If you don't like the steak in a restaurant, send it back.
But he didn't have to lock my kids in the house and threaten him, Your Honor.
Listen to me carefully.
He threatened my son.
Listen to me.
He told me he was going to...
Listen to me. You don't like it, move. You don't not pay rent and stay. And then want more money to move. You have money to move. You've saved $5,000 by not paying him rent.
Me and Mr. Richard discussed that. He has the $5,000 coming.
Listen, we're done. I'm finished with your case. That's the way I believe justice is. When you eat a product that belongs to somebody else, you pay for it. If you don't like the product, you send it... Put it around, please.
Your Honor.
You put it back. You send it back with the waiter, and you say, this steak is raw, it's rancid, it's too tough, it's whatever, and I don't want to eat it, and I don't want to eat it. But if you eat the steak, you have to pay for it. And if you live in the house, you have to pay rent. And if you don't want to live there anymore, move. Now, you haven't paid rent in 4 months, so you've saved that money in rent, so I have no sympathy for you. You have enough money for you and your wife. You just told me she has her own house.
She does, Your Honor.
Great. Then go back to her house. You've saved $5,000. You should say thank you to him. Now, money owed for property damage. He's not paying you for stress. I want to see what damage you allege they've caused to the house. Don't give me a whole lot of papers. Just give me a picture of what you allege they've done to the house.
Because he padlocked my kids in the house? First, I broke it off.
So estimates also.
You're showing me a lock?
It's a lock to the gate. Was ripped out of the.
Because he padlocked my kids in the house.
I don't want to hear from you anymore. When I ask you a question,
yes, ma'am,
you'll hear it. That's baloney, Mr. Sotelo. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done with this case. Move!
Why is that excuse? You may step out.
This guy, he locked my kids in the house, threatened to burn the house down with locks.
He stopped paying rent.
Just be more careful who I rent from.